Hello and welcome to the Heathen Wyrdos Podcast. This episode will be discussing how to build Praxis with Andy, Andrimnir, and other deities that are mentioned briefly in the lore. So let's get started. My name is Sif, my pronouns are she, her.
My name is Theo. My pronouns are they, them.
I'm Kenna. My pronouns are she, her.
Awesome. So, literally all we have on Andy is the following line, and I'm going to butcher some of this. Andrimnir has Sarimnir cooked in Eldarimnir, best of meats. We have Sarimnir is a boar that once slaughtered comes to life each night to be slaughtered again, which also mirrors the idea of Thor's goats, Tangrisnir and Tangnoster, because they die and then get eaten and then come back.
I mean, that's convenient.
Yes, there is this running theme of animals being slaughtered to be eaten and then reborn.
So on the note of Sif butchering names, if you want a treat that is maybe slightly horrifying, you should Google how to pronounce Andrimnir.
Don't do this to me. Oh no, is it Andrimnir? I don't know. Let's look.
Or they have okay, one second.
Is it going to be completely different?
Oh yeah. No, it's well, no, and then so there's the first. Oh god, I have to. Okay, let me listen to this real quick.
I thought I had the pronunciation kind of down for Old Norse, but apparently not. Let's have a look. Don't do adverts. What is that? That's so quiet. That's a
listen to this.
Andrimnir.
But it's they say it they start real strong with it, and they're like Andrimnir, and I'm like, God, it's like they're possessed. That's why I call him Andy.
Andrimnir.
What they're saying is Old Norse is a dead language, and we don't actually know how to pronounce it. And try our fucking best, even if it's got some slurpy flair.
Slurpy flair.
Did you watch the Pronounce God one?
Oh, Christ.
That is what I watched.
Yeah, so it's like, Andrimnir. Andrimnir.
I'm glad I could bring this to our lives.
Oh, thank you.
Millie,
thank you.
Knock. Okay, Millie has gotten onto my desk, and she's standing right next to my, I needed extra caffeine today. I've switched to working day shift from evening shift, and my brain is fighting real hard. It is Sunday, but still trying not to sleep till 9 o'clock when I have to be at work at 7 during the week, and I have my 30-ounce tumbler for coffee sitting next to my computer. Often that's what's necessary. Love you guys. Great.
I'm gonna pretend to know what an ounce is.
Oh.
How much is an ounce? 1 second.
1 second.
Ounces to liters.
About a paperclip.
So my cup is roughly. God, it's probably. What does it have it on the bottom?
Mm-hmm. So 30 ounces is about 0.8 liters.
Yes, I am drinking 0.8 liters of coffee right now. I actually made an 8-cup. I made I'm laughing at the numbers. I made the 8 coffee cups worth in my coffee pot, and I have topped it off, so I'm drinking all of that, and that's 1.9 liters of coffee.
Incredible.
Sif's like, oh, you're not dying. Okay. I've worked in healthcare for a really long time.
Yeah, I can imagine how that how you get a immunity to caffeine.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's I never drank coffee until I started working in healthcare. I have always drank tea. And I'm not saying I never ever drank coffee. I did drink coffee because I was fucking goth. Okay, let's be real here. And I don't know. I'm not necessarily a traditional goth anymore. I'm sure there's some subgenre. I'm just a goblin who likes wearing really bright colors and causing chaos and being a little over the top.
Cool. core. Gore. Goblin gore. Goblin core.
I feel like I'm
Goblin
like
core.
gothy goblin cottagecore that's also met the rainbow. I don't know. Anyways. I like that we have gotten so off topic in the middle of actually recording. I mean, we got past the introductions. We started talking about the boar.
Yes,
which is 3 lines past the introduction. All right. Sorry.
Okay.
Focusing.
Andrimnia's name means sooty one or one exposed to soot. And all we know is that is colloquially referred to as the chef of the gods, though it's more accurate to say he's the chef to the Enheria, those who died in battle. So where do we start building Praxis with a god that is only briefly mentioned? Theo, I know you move at a snail's pace, so how did you approach building Praxis with Andy?
So I cook a lot. Like, I love to cook. Like, I am not shaming any chefs out there. But if being a chef, I have like, I'm neurodivergent, let's be real here. So like I need a schedule, and if being a chef actually provided like a decent schedule and health insurance, I would be a chef. But that's not where I live. So anyways, I cook a lot. So I guess like I was cooking and I lit a candle and I like put a cookie there and was like, "Hello, I heard of you. Someone told me of you. I didn't know you existed. I hear you like to cook. I like to cook. Want to cook with me?" And it started just kind of as a devotional act. And so like right now I just devote all of my cooking and stuff like that as like a devotional act to Andrimnir. Millie, do you need to scratch the window pane right now? Anyways, so I did that. I'm working on setting up a kitchen altar for him. I don't personally feel like his altar needs to specifically be in the kitchen. It just feels appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because thinking of like someone who has to butcher a boar every single day and then like cook it into like a delicious meal for like a horde of people, like this person would be cooking all damn day. Mm-hmm. So like it just, to me, like it seemed natural to put him there. And anyways, I don't know, like how, like I'm just gonna ramble. Sorry, I feel like I was able to build my Praxis with Andrimnir a little more quickly because 1, like there's nothing. Mm-hmm. 2, I've been cooking and like I cook a lot and I've been cooking a lot and intensely for many years. Like I like to challenge myself constantly with cooking. So it just felt more natural to me, and kind of like I guess to kind of more solidify my Praxis and like whatnot with Andrimnir, like, you know, with no lore, I basically started looking up some more traditional like what traditional Norse heathen cooking practices, like praxis cooking is, well, it's praxis for me, but not everyone. What like cooking practices or like recipes they would have used and stuff like that, and like what time of year.
Yeah.
So kind of like doing some history research, but also just like it's definitely very UPG based because I don't understand how it wouldn't be. With like what, like that one line of lore. Yeah. It's barely a full sentence. Like
2 little lines.
Yeah. Because like Eldrimnir, what did we say that was?
The cauldron.
Yes. Eldrimnir. I don't think we covered the cauldron.
We can now.
We're here. Yeah. So like basically what we know is that there's this chef. God, I feel like I'm just rambling and going like on tangents. My ADHD is really up in.
Honestly, this is great.
Thank you. But so we know that we have a chef. We know that there's a boar. and we know that there's a cauldron, and that's what's cooked in, and that because they are called sooty, you know, obviously, like, for that time, they would have cooked with fire, because it's like ovens didn't exist or something. And just went from there, studied history, and I'm thinking about getting, like, a specific, like, an upgraded set of knives. Like, because cooking has become much more devotional for me. So in my hearth cult specifically, I don't, and I know this, I didn't realize it was different. Really, please don't. Then just get in my lap, darling. Come up here. Get up. Thank you. Sorry, she was pawing at my chair, and anyways, so I didn't realize a lot of other people don't do this, but, like, because I was talking to someone and they were like, I have my hearth cult, then I also have other deities I work with. And I was like, wait, they're not in your hearth cult? They were like, well, no, I only consider deities in my hearth cult to be the ones that I work with the most and, like, I'm the closest with. And I was like, I mean, I guess that's fair. I personally let every deity I work with into my hearth cult, and, like, if I ever stop working with them, they leave. Like, it's fine. It's like an open door policy. And also they're like, well, which ones are you closest with? I was like, you know, I kind of view my relationships with deities like I view my relationships with, like, friends and other people. Like, there are just people I'm going to be closer with than others, and that's okay. I just let people into my hearth cult. Deities into my hearth cult when I'm working with them. I don't know. Where was I going with that? Anyways,
I think you got there.
I think I did. I'm not sure. Very distracted. Millie tried to pull my headphones off. So yeah.
Sabotage.
Yeah, she's real fancy today. It's like the coolest day we've had in a long time. It's about noon here, and it's only 70 degrees out.
Oh, damn.
Which is delightful compared to the 100 degrees it's been prior to this. Yeah, like, I'll take it. Okay, so we covered... I feel like it's pretty much covered for what I do. Like, I really jumped in with Andy because, like, I started working with him, and, like... Oh, I remember where I was going with my hearth cult thing. I started working with him, and it's just, like, he's really easy to work with for me because I cook a lot, and, like, I find a lot of inspiration and creativity in cooking, and, like, I feel my relationship with Andy really helps that as well, and is also helped by that, like, reciprocally.
Reciprocity.
Recipes or suggestions. Which is why I'm not a baker. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it was a lot easier to build Praxis with Andy than a lot of other deities for me, just because, like, cooking is something I already know a lot about.
Yeah. And I quite like that. I think with Andy specifically, and I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head, it seems like despite the lack of information that we have on him, he's known for doing one thing and one thing only. So it's a case of just focusing on that would be great, and obviously then you can expand it out.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, in these sorts of things, we have to be driven from inference and, when able, UPG.
Yeah.
And in terms of Andy, there's a lot to be learned from a name. You know, this kind of image of being covered in soot, hardworking, and the only fact that we have those two lines barely, either because they've been lost or whatever, you can kind of make inferences on the back of that. Like, you know, he kept himself to himself. And if he is cooking every single day, he's busy, you know, he's duty bound, is driven, and doesn't get involved in, you know, the chaos of Asgard. But yeah, I do actually know one other person that works and worships with Andrymnia in their practice, and they are a chef. So, you know, it's very easy. You know, they incorporate food offerings and devotional acts while they work.
Oh yeah.
And you've got that idea of, you know, people find happiness from food and the acts of cooking it, and, like, the community aspect of it, and kind of like an idea of caregiving. And that's kind of, despite the fact that I don't actively worship or work with Andy, I feel like that in itself can inform you a great deal about his character.
Oh yeah.
The idea that, he's cooking every single day,
all day,
particularly like non-stop, all day, very obviously hardworking, and as I said, duty bound. And I think that's what you've got to do ultimately, like baseline, when gods have barely any mention at all, is to kind of look into the connections that you can make and like ground it in. Yeah, carry on.
I was gonna say, and well, like with Endrimnir, like I personally find it a lot easier because, like, I mean, okay, one, I have a baseline knowledge of cooking, but two, like, oh, okay, like, so he cooks a lot. Like, if I'm gonna go with if I wanted to understand better how people in ancient Norse times, Old Norse times, I don't know if ancient is the appropriate word. It was a long time ago. Anyways, we can look at what we know about their cooking practices and like from archaeological digs and stuff like that, and like it's a lot easier to find information based on that. I want to say I personally find that it's been extremely easy to build Praxis with him. The hardest part is finding motherfucking imagery for him. There's none. I have commissioned an art piece for him.
And I've seen the rough sketch.
You have, and it's beautiful. Gonna make me a boar.
Yes.
We'll talk about that later.
This is why everybody needs to have artist friends.
Yes.
So that you can find art for that god or being that was mentioned once.
If. You want to make me a boar that is adorably peeking out of a cauldron?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm glad we could have this conversation.
With little legs over the lip.
Yeah.
The rim.
Little legs, and it's just sitting there with the little tuskies. Yeah.
Kind of weirdly reminds me of, I'm pretty sure I might be the only person that's read this, but The Restaurant at the End of the Universe by Douglas Adams.
I appreciate you. My shaming is all from love.
Thanks. I didn't know how deep we were going into like the Douglas Adams stuff, but yeah, that kind of reminds me of maybe the boar's a bit like that. We don't know.
Who knows? Maybe. Possible.
Which bit do you want to eat? That's really grim. Stop there.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, the boar comes back to life every day, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I like to think the boar consents to it.
Yeah.
And that Andy is kind and like makes it painless. Or like maybe it's just some weird like sentient cooking that is not hopefully painful for it. I'm going off on a really weird tangent here.
No, I think it's interesting, especially with the idea of like Thor's goats as well.
Yeah. Like clearly the boar isn't that they aren't running away. Like
I mean that we know of. We don't have any more detail on that online.
Kenna's just over there like, the reasons I'm a vegetarian just got longer. It's fine.
It's fine.
I respect people in their dietary choices.
All dietary choices are valid.
Yes.
Thank you for this.
Yes. Choices and needs, valid. Go for it.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry.
I feel like we could have probably tied it into the animism episode about the like,
I mean, it's likely. I'm excited to hear that. I was not in for that one.
It's a good one.
Really enjoyed it. Yeah. I can't remember most of it.
It was much more we stayed on topic a lot better.
Are you saying that I pull us off topic?
Yes.
No. It was like the animism episode was focused and boring. No,
it's that this topic is so much fun because ways that people build off of one or two sentences are so different from person to person, but it tends to get you to the same spot. It makes it really cool and leaves a lot of room for fun and laughter and things.
Laughter is the best medicine. It is a praxis with air. It's fine.
Yep. Fact now.
Comedy is air. This is true.
There is comedy.
There's a pun there that I can't remember.
Transition seamlessly and
Belay that segue.
what?
Because we'll belay that.
No, it's fine. I understood you.
I know.
Being a goblin. Yes.
Right, where was I? Oh, yes. I guess one key aspect of, from the outset, trying to come up with ideas of various ways to do devotional acts is to look to other cultures for inspiration, especially those that are more detailed in terms of their lore and the stories and mythology. So, for instance, deities that look over the kitchen or food, or stove gods, so to speak, also tied heavily into the hearth and looking after the home. So now for any recons out there, this might not be an ideal place to anchor your practice, but if you're eager for more of a framework, I do recommend looking at similar deities for inspiration, that sort of area of things. On the subject of recons, I know there are some very hardcore recons out there that very much take the idea that if there was no historical precedence for worshipping a particular deity, then that's not recon to worship them. And that's not where I am at all.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is so good. I haven't seen it that far along.
We may or may... Actually, I'll probably post this picture in our Discord server. So I will currently shamelessly plug our Discord server right now. We have a Discord server. We show art there sometimes, especially Sif's art, because Sif is an amazing artist. They have an art channel. This commission I have of Endrimnir will be posted. I will likely put a watermark on it because I did pay for this, and I am not sharing it because it is not my personal art to share. It's adorable, and I love it.
That's really cool. To kind of lean more into the segue aspect of things, it would seem that besides gods such as Odin, Thor, Loki, Freya, Frigg, there's very little information on other gods outside of those. So one of those is, of course, air. And I think pretty much all of Frigg's handmaidens are in a similar boat, in that they pretty much get one line.
Or Saga.
Yeah, Saga is the second of Frigg's handmaidens, so she actually has her name mentioned, a hall mentioned as well. And I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. It's basically Sunken Hall. So
I would like to go hang out there.
And then you have the third is air. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I know that the various individuals worship pretty much all of Frigg's handmaidens. And yeah, and there's the 14th one, which has more information. And I think it's pronounced Na, or Na. We'll just say that. Na.
No, yeah.
Who is the one that Frigg sends out to basically, I don't want to say do errands, but goes out and riding and on behalf of Frigg. So she's representing the queen, as it were. She actually has a lot of information on her because she pops up in various sagas. Or at least one, which is more than everyone else on this list. We also have Nerthus, who is only mentioned in Germania. I should have had the book out. It's Tacitus, anyway. Nerthus is only mentioned in Tacitus. But I know people kind of bring her in, anyway. Some people, UPG-wise, see Nerthus as the mother of Frey and Freya. But again, it's all filtered through the lens of a Roman who wasn't particularly fond of the Germanic people. So there's a lot of UPG and inference and research going into all of that. And of course, we have the Valkyries who, despite popping up relatively frequently in the sagas, are basically often barely lingered on, maybe just naming them and moving on, with the exceptions of Brynhilda and Sigrun. So for me, in terms of working with the Valkyries, worshipping the Valkyries, I'm working from the bare minimum. So I go from their battle gods, their death sphere gods, and their names. Luckily, again, a little bit of Andy, we can get some sort of inference in terms of their potential personalities and the brief appearances that they do have. So some Herya, Devastator, other ones being like Council Truce. You can kind of get a feel for at least their roles or what sort of what sort of roles they would have had on the battlefield or outside, like Elrune, probably more in Valhalla than fully on the battlefield, potentially. But again, they're very much known as being bound by duty, yet they have agency, and we have in some instances like Brunhild's, they sometimes break their duties out of a sense of right. So again, there's conclusions to be made and ways to dig out some sort of praxis from the bare minimum. And I would say, especially in Norse mythology, the Norse lore and sagas, names are important. They have an inherent meaning.
I'd agree.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. So
no, I'm agreeing with you because you're right.
Look at the.
I'm gonna keep interrupting you too.
No, it's fine. Go ahead. Otherwise, I will be rambling.
I would like for you to ramble.
But yeah.
I enjoy your rambles.
But things like Freya, who... Thank you. I mean, that's why we have a podcast, right? So we can ramble. So yeah, Freya, meaning kind of lady. A lot of people think it's basically, it's a title, but those that worship Freya and Frigg as one of the same kind of hold that title a bit more as a placeholder. And those that separate Freya and Frigg kind of use the idea of lady, and obviously Frey meaning more like a lord, to kind of make some inferences based on that. Kenna, here's your time to shine. Sol and Mani.
Yes.
How often are they mentioned?
Oh, literally not very often. I wish I had looked at this sooner so I didn't have to Google it right now. But there are not a lot of mentions. Can you be useful?
Which is interesting.
There we go. Personification of the moon in Norse mythology. Actual functional mentions, it's alluded to in Voluspa, but it's literally the most useless thing ever. So it's like the sun, the sister of the moon, and the moon knew not what his might was. So the moon exists, and he doesn't know what power he holds. Thanks, great, super helpful. Love that for us. But what that does is connect the sun and the moon as functionally siblings, which is sure, great. We have the very quick mentioning of the moon's father. I can't pronounce this name and I'm not going to try. He who beget the moon and fathered the flaming sun, so they have parents. Great. Cool.
Aww. Cool.
Super helpful. And then, of course, in the prose, we get a couple endings. Year counter is the good one. Squinter is real interesting. Thanks, Snorri, for that. Squinter, correct. Well, maybe the moon was really bright. Depending on when it was written, that was the brightest thing in the sky in northern Scandinavia. But what we do have for Sol and Mani is that they is followed through the sky by a brother and sister, Hijuki and Bill, who, as seen, it's where the story of Jack and Jill come from, actually. I don't know quite how it went from adopted children of the moon to the myth of Jack and Jill, but I know that they're connected, and I will find that, and I will post it somewhere. But I'm going to find it. It's not a lot. We don't have a lot. Yeah, I think the majority of my extrapolation on Mani has come from a year counter and the timekeeping. Keeping the time or marking the years for men. Those phrases are what foundationally built the way that I experience and bond with Mani. And that and the story of the kids he adopted as a protector of children. I think the story goes that he adopted these little children because their home life was bad or something. So he adopted them to protect them, which is where I get a lot of my Mani as a protector of children vibe from.
I think I'm actually surprised that we don't have more on Sol and Mani.
I mean, you would think.
All things considered.
I'm surprised we don't have more.
I mean, apart from them being
general,
eaten.
Ever.
Yeah, it seems that if you're not like an Odin or Thor or Loki worshipper, you really are just picking up whatever scraps you can find. Oh, look at this.
It's pretty true. Just I found a shiny rock over here. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so Mani is followed through the heavens by the brother and sister children Hejuk and Bil, as can be seen from the earth, whom he took from earth while they fetched water from a well. Hejuk and Bil became Jack and Jill. They were Anglicanized, and they went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. That's the connection. There it is.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, was one of them called Bill?
Yes, B-I-L, Bill.
You could just put another L on there and call it Bill.
Yeah, but it needed to be a boy or girl. Watch me rabbit hole.
The other thing... I would have to know...
Yes, Theo?
Oh, I would have to know, like, which names were... Like, if it was traditionally, like, a boy or girl name. I personally think gender is dumb. Name people whatever they want to be named. Anyways, what? So, I mean, of course we had to take that and turn it into a...
Sorry.
Song or a story about premarital sex.
It's not.
Anyways.
Because they're
Christians.
Siblings.
No, Jack and Jill?
Yeah.
Oh, Jack and Jill is a story about premarital sex.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Like, they go up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. They're tumbling on the hill, and she gets...
They're siblings!
Pregnant. You know, I don't pretend to understand lore. I don't understand to pretend lore anyways.
I don't... Okay. I'd like that on merch. I don't
pretend to understand. I just said that completely backwards.
No, I want it on merch.
Put it in the merch channel,
understand
please.
Pretend lore. Okay.
I don't. It's fine. I try. I try so hard.
Mm-hmm.
I love you guys.
We appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I try so hard. It's hard. Anyways, I'll stop saying it's hard. Kenna, do you want me to put all... It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
I'm gonna trust you on that.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
Okay, fair. We have more gods to discuss.
Wait, do we?
We do have. Well, yes, we'll say
Sif,
yes.
help.
Hello. I did mention air. Hell is also here.
Yes.
I guess it's supposed to be originally part of names. The importance of names. What's in a name? So hell means concealed place, underworld, conceal, cover, and some people jump a little bit more than that and say protect. So I know a lot of people see hell, myself included, as a kind of a protector, a caregiver of the dead, that sort of thing. So that's kind of rolling in to the cover, conceal, protect element. And of course, I think the kind of the epitome of this idea of building praxis with deities that are barely mentioned is the idea of found gods, who often can have no lore, no VPG, which is verified personal gnosis, to base the practice on. And here we go. Hail Caffeina.
Yes.
I knew that was coming. And like, because, again, not very well versed, but I'm pretty sure we don't have any lore on Caffeina at all. Right?
No.
Nothing at all.
Like, literally nothing, except I love coffee, okay?
Yes.
Like...
So yeah, I think that's basically the crux of the episode.
Yeah, no, that's the base of it. The other thing, because I'm getting much more into folklore, there's a lot of really valuable stuff in folklore. Like, I think folklore is where we get the connection of Frigg spinning clouds. That's not in the traditional lore, that's not in the Eddas, but there is folklore around Frigg spinning clouds. Oh, let me look something up really quick, because there's folklore also specifically about sheet lightning being connected to either Frigg or Freya. I can't recall.
Oh yeah.
Which.
When one has been struck by lightning.
Going with the lightning hit the ground and some kind of alchemical reaction happened, and now we have another sheep. That's totally how sheep are made, right?
Yes.
It's just a puff of like wool.
Well, yeah, it's like the lightning takes the cloud and shoves it into the ground, and suddenly it has life.
Yes. So,
oh wow. Okay.
In a specific province of Sweden, there is a recorded story connecting Freya specifically with sheet lightning in the sky, sheet with a T. And it was meant. There are no sheep. The quote from the story is that a woman is talking to her child, and she says, "Don't be afraid. It's only Freya who is out making fire with steel and flint to test if the rye is ripe. She is kind to people. She is only doing it to be of service." And it gets interesting here. "She is not like Thor, who slays both people and livestock when he is in the mood."
I mean, I like to throw shade at Thor.
So the point being that folklore can have some really interesting perspectives that you don't have to take as truth, but it does help when you have nothing to work with in the Eddas.
Mm-hmm. And boy, the Eddas are very low on the ground sometimes.
What?
Oh, can you imagine if there was a recipe book at the back of like the Codex
my
Regius
God.
and it just wasn't copied?
I was gonna say in Crawford's Cowboy Havamal at the back. There's Andrimnir's cookbook at the back.
Oh, someone make that happen.
Don't give me. I could.
It's got to have boar in it.
Yeah.
People
I mean, a pig and a boar are so similar.
I'm imagining Andy getting really experimental.
Yeah.
Or ice cream out of.
I mean, if I had to cook for people
need a
every day,
variety.
I would get
Please say you were going
too.
with boar milk.
Yeah, or boar meat. I don't know.
With ice cream? I've seen cupcakes with bacon on them. I have talked to some other people that have, like, found mention of Andrimnir and been like, I'm looking to build Praxis with them. And I've been like, this is how I did it, which we all heard me ramble on about before. And, like, some of them have been like, but I don't eat meat, or I'm a baker, I'm not a cooker, or, like, a chef, or I don't cook a lot. And I'm like, and like, you think they didn't have fucking rolls and shit and bread?
Oh, they had
like
so
he
much
totally
bread.
he was their cook. Like, he made all of their food. Like, there's no way he didn't bake as well, or like whatever. So like, we're not going to assume he only had a boar to make everything out of. Now, am I saying in my UPG Andrimnir would not put bacon in ice cream? Fuck no. Put bacon in your ice cream. That would make me happy. Like,
I like that point though, that just because something wasn't mentioned, like, let's use our critical thought here. It probably happened. We have specific mention of Andy with a boar, but that doesn't negate the fact that everybody fucking ate bread.
I mean, he also would have made wine probably, and like mead and beer. Like, there's no way he didn't. Like, he's the cook. I'm sure he probably had assistants. I don't know. He's a god. Maybe what is time to a god? Anyways, but yeah, it's like, I'm sure he also made made pickles. I'm sure he also made like alcohols and stuff like that. When I say pickles, I don't mean like the cucumber pickles specifically. Like, you can pickle a lot of things, including meat. I'm not saying you should do that. I personally don't enjoy it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So let me tell you guys, Swedes and Norwegians and things, they use weird things in their food. Not because they're strange people, but because that is the
Are you sure?
The place that they lived in required that they get creative. So I have made cookies with my grandmother who came over from Sweden. And sometimes those cookies require spoiled milk. Sometimes, yes, but have you ever just set milk out to spoil to make cookies? Exactly. The other thing that she uses in these specific cookies that we have never made again because they are boring is, like, they're good. But they're like the homemade version of those, like, cookies that come in a tin. You know those tins that, like, everyone sees sewing kit, but it's cookies? It's like the homemade version of those.
Do you mean the butter cookie tin?
Yeah. We made those functionally. They were very dry because they're Swedish cookies. The other thing that was in those cookies is something that I can't pronounce the name without help, and she is not here to help me, but the name translates to deer horn salt. Salt made from ground deer horn. It makes perfect sense if you remember, like, where the fuck they were, but I live in the United States and there's a store down the street. I don't need to grind deer horn to have salt.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Holy shit, man, it's really bad. I tried it. I asked my grandmother if it was, like, full, like, what you use it for, and she said, why don't you just try it? So I literally, like, dipped my finger in and licked it and tried it. It was so bad. The point is that Scandinavian food is real fun.
It's like British food, but more fun.
That does mean Andy is the god of meatballs.
Where's going with that?
Andy is the god of IKEA meatballs.
Yes.
And that is not debatable. Sif, I feel like...
Should we end it there?
I don't know that we have a solid hour of content here.
I think we
Depends
do.
on how liberally you cut shit out.
I think we do.
A lot, yeah. I feel like you glossed over a lot of the Valkyrie stuff that you've done. I don't want you to feel like you shouldn't talk about it.
I can probably talk more on the Valkyries.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. I want to make sure you get the important stuff out. Because I know if we let you, it'll be 3 hours long. But I don't want you to kneecap yourself too hard.
Well, with the Valkyries, I guess it was important for me to recognize that they are one unit, also very individual. And the various individual Valkyries pop up by themselves every now and again and have their own adventures and connections, but they are often seen as a one cohesive unit. So it was a case of when I was working on building Praxis, it was, do I try and kind of approach them as one group, or do I try and treat them as individual goddesses? As I talked about in my Valkyrie episode, it was a case of a little bit of both. Very much appeared en masse, a little bit unexpectedly. And obviously had that moment of being quite overwhelmed, and then I took the step back, and then it was a case of, okay, I really feel like I need to do more research on them individually and try and dip my toes in slower. Now, for instance, I feel probably closer to some of them rather than others, and doing a lot of research on burial rites, all of that element of stuff. Obviously, hell connects quite closely to them, and the Nornia, and the idea of fate, and then obviously we have Sather coming into that, and this is really what my whole research happened. It was kind of like a explosion of connections, and then doing more research into Sather, and then obviously I was already worshipping Freya, so it was like one big nice circle that I found myself in terms of, these all kind of relate to each other. There's a
thread here that connects them, and now we're researching archaeological digs of graves and shit for reasons.
Exactly.
Dude, and they have nothing. There's one line of, they carve runes into the tree.
There's a well somewhere.
It's great. Gets Skuld mentioned one other time, but it's just her name. Here's some Valkyries. This is one of them. Oh, look, that one's also a Norn. Good luck figuring it out. It's so great. It's just lovely. But there with the fucking Norns, Sif taught me this. The names matter. And if you research the names, you'll get a better idea of what each of them represent beyond the typical human desire to call it past, present, and future. Because it's not that. Mine is fake.
Yes, and there was actually something that I mentioned somewhere recently about, you have the Nornia as a collective, and, collectively the very little attestations, which is surprising considering how seemingly important they are in everything. But
so good.
But then when you start analysing, the three of them individually, and then you have the idea of Skuld potentially being a Valkyrie, and she's more about what may become. And if, there's a lot of, if this is the case, where can I take it? So, okay, if Skuld is in fact a Valkyrie, then why is she a Valkyrie? And then you can obviously research more of the Valkyries and see how she may have been connected. I mean, personally, for me, I like the idea that Skuld sometimes had to be present on a battlefield where a lot of fates were in the balance, colossal kind of decision making and reverberations and ripple effects. So, she had to be checking the weave, as it were, and going, well, if this side wins but this person dies, well, that's going to have an effect like this, and this. And she was almost like a measure, making sure that the future wasn't completely catastrophic. And there may have been an element of Odin collaborating with the Nornir or trying to navigate, like, if we are to say that Ragnarok is a thing, maybe talking to the Valkyries to try and like figure out the way of getting the best warriors, and maybe if we do this and if this side wins and if this king takes over this land.
That's specifically the problem of Freya gets first pick, because then no matter who Odin tries to bribe the Nornir to death, Freya might just yoink him.
Yoink! Mine now.
We actually have like sources on them. We have references to them and their halls, and we're still this lost. Love living. Why did I pick this religion?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It's a lot. It's great. It is incredibly freeing that we are free to build off of one or fewer words and lines of attestations historically, and trust ourselves and our intuition to build a practice. But holy fuck, I'd like some handlebars on this project, please.
I guess ultimately that's when you're looking to build a praxis with a deity that doesn't have much information, there is freedom in that. Go with it as you will. If you see, for instance, that Andy has 2 lines and basically just describes, his job and what he uses and the boar, then go wild, in terms of building your own praxis. Whatever feels right. Ooh. So yeah, I think that's the element here. There is no entirely wrong way of doing it, but I would definitely recommend looking at names, looking at connections. If you feel like you want to, looking at different cultures and the way that any similar deities would have been treated, if it's relevant.
Super helpful. Get comfortable exploring on your own. Get comfortable with the idea of your UPG being all you have to work with, because sometimes it's gonna be like that. And that's okay, even if the mean stuffy recons say, hey, what the hell? Say no. It is fine. No. But it does, even if you're building a practice based almost entirely off of UPG, it helps a lot to have, like, 1 building block. Maybe 2 from the lore that you can really work with. The name, the meaning, the single line, the kenning that just stuck out to you really hard. Those are going to be super helpful while you're exploring, because that's essentially what you're doing.
Oh dear.
It's so fun. It is so fun. It's so fun and exciting. I mean that without the sarcasm. I just always sound sarcastic. We need to end this episode, Sif. Okay.
Probably. Oh, I guess that's me, isn't it?
That is
okay.
you.
Right. Okay. Don't forget to weave the connection between the like, subscribe, and bell button if you want to stay up to date on the latest episodes. We have a Patreon. You don't have to join it, but it would be cool if you did. I post art, and by posting art, I've done 1 piece. There'll be more in the future. There are outtakes on some tiers. There are live coffee breaks on others, and chaos and unedited episodes, or partially edited episodes. We'll see. Server, have I mentioned that yet? We've mentioned it. Well, Theo mentioned it. We have a Discord server. It is chaos. There is much goblin energy, mostly from Kenna. The mods are cool too, and we hang out there sometimes. Well, most of the time.
I was gonna say, don't tell it low.
We pop in occasionally to see if it has burned to the ground yet. No.
We
have merch. We have merch,
which is super great and cool.
And we may be adding more.
We're certainly compiling a list of things that could be made into merch.
We are working on it. There will be more.
Cool. And that is it. We're doing the thing. This has been building Praxis with Andy / deities that are barely mentioned at all in the lore. And don't forget to keep heathenry weird.
So professional.
Yes.
Keeping it weird.